Welcome back to the Sports Cage. We teased it earlier. Time to talk hockey here. Joining us, if you're listening on the radio, you can't see him, but if you're watching the stream, there he is from Bladworth, Saskatchewan via Davidson. Cory Sarich joining us. Cory, first off, it's been a while since we talked. How's your dad? How's Pete? How's Sudsy, as they call him out there?
He's doing well. He's actually got himself a new pair of skates, still playing some old timers. So I actually missed out the other day. My cousin Trevor Johnson, who was a Moose Jaw Warrior, South Carolina Stingray Kelly Cup champ, he was home, unfortunately, for a funeral. And then my cousin Kirk, who was a Moose Jaw AAA Warrior, and then another cousin. The three of them went out skating with my old man, and they all took a picture together, and it was from the Davidson Arena. So I guess I missed a good one.
Yeah.
He said he was standing near the net and almost took one in the teeth. So he said he's not going back to the crease again.
Awesome.
He was complaining. He was complaining that the young guys shoot too hard.
Yeah. Wow. You're seeing that, right, with the youngster playing hockey. Let's start by talking Four Nations first. Last night, the USA thumps Finland, although Finland goes up 1-0. Just as a whole, this tournament, Cory, from a guy that's played in the league, now you're doing the analyst thing, and you played some international hockey as well. What's your take on this in-season best on best?
It's intriguing. I don't put a whole lot of stock in it, but it sure is a heck of a lot more enjoyable than an all-star game. I mean, I've always thought that those are just a complete and utter waste of time. So this is nice. At least you have the best guys together. There's maybe a few guys missing out there due to a few injuries, but it was pretty crazy. That start to that first Canadian game was wild. I mean, you couldn't have scripted a better goal to start things off with. The ovation for Mario Lemieux, who's revered in that area, and I'm sure the fans are loving it. Like, it's going to be generally a fairly high-scoring affair from what I've seen so far.
So, okay, Canada dumps Sweden, USA gives it to Finland. So tomorrow, it's Canada-USA, and everyone's kind of wondering how this is going to go. Now, a lot of people listening, I remember, if you're playing in the game, you're going full out here, even though some of those guys, like, are you trying to lay a hit early on someone, set the tone in this game?
Oh, I think you have to. And with the Kachucks on the other side, if you're not going to do it on the Canadian side, well, it's going to happen to you. Maybe you throw a little Sam Bennett out there to run around against one of his current teammates. I don't know. That'd probably be a bit of a coaching change that I would make. I actually thought that it would be a little more gritty. I mean, maybe the Swedes don't have the grittiest team out there, but the Finns play a pretty scrappy brand of hockey. And like I said, you got the Kachuk brothers there with the U.S., Canada's no slouch. Like, we got a Brad Marchand out there. You've got some guys that'll mix it up. You've got a really scrappy third and fourth line. So I expect it to get a little bit chippy, and I hope it does. That's when hockey's the best. Who wants to watch just this run and gun offensive crap?
Exactly. That's what the pond hockey's for. That's what the Davidson Arena pickup games are for. Thomas Harley, they're talking that he's getting parachuted in as an in-case guy into Boston. Now, I don't know where he was during this somewhat break. Have you heard, you don't have to give names, some NHLers, I talked to one that's in Hawaii. Have you heard where some of the guys have gone during this extended break?
I didn't actually ask too many of the guys before they were taken off. I just kind of let it be. But I would imagine it's a hot destination. It hasn't been very warm here in Western Canada, so you're going to get the heck out of there. But I was kind of shocked at Harley's name thrown out there. He wasn't like really in the mix. I know he's got some history with a couple of the coaches there behind the bench. I've been rooting for Mackenzie Weegar here as a local Calgary guy. I think he's been the best defenseman here this year. He's been a touch above Rasmus Anderson in the offense. Defensively, he's been super sound. So he said, "Hey, doesn't matter where I am, I'm coming in regardless." So I don't think you'd have any trouble prying any of these guys away from vacation for this. All-Star game's a little bit different. I mean, vacation or going the accolades, but yet you're a replacement for someone that was actually better than you. So this, at least if you got a chance to play, that would be a little more exciting for me.
We were talking about it earlier. It's weird because Harley's actually born in Syracuse, New York, so he must have the dual citizenship.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you were playing, and it was an all-star break, maybe Olympic break, where did you go? Where would Cory Sarich and the family pack up and go?
Well, I've been a few different spots. My in-laws had a place in Palm Springs, so we head down there. I remember one vividly when I was pretty young, and I think we had just had our first daughter. So, wow, 20 years ago. And we flew to Palm Springs because a set of grandparents were there, dropped off the 1 or 2-year-old. And then I met my brother-in-law and his sister-in-law, Nick Schultz, who was also a player. And I remember because we were all under the age of 25, we couldn't really rent a car, but we wanted to go to Phoenix. We wanted to get away for a couple of days. So the only place that would rent us a car was Rent-A-Wreck. And they gave us this stylish old, like, late 90s, early 2000s Crown Vic that looked exactly like a cop car. It was white. It had the black hubs. So I'm telling you, I'm smoking along through the desert there. You wouldn't believe how many people were panicked, slowing down, pulling over, and I'm just roaring by all of them. But I just remember cruising around Phoenix in that thing for a week, and yeah, that's how we roll.
Nice. A Crown Vic, a Saskatchewan staple in the 80s and 90s for sure. What as a guy that's you've been retired for a few years now, what do you miss most? Is there a time of the year that you miss playing the most, or what do you miss most?
I think like everybody would say, it's just being around your teammates. You instantly had a big set of friends that you hung out with every day, saw every day. You pushed each other's buttons. You had a ton of fun around the sport. You got to travel over with these guys, great meals, food. I mean, the sport itself was unbelievable. I loved playing hockey, ultra competitive, being able to do that, but I don't miss that part of it. I actually went out for a skate this week up at Winsport. Jay Beagle, who heads up CIHA here in Calgary, one of the prep schools. Wow, I think he's only 38 or 39, and he still can skate incredibly fast and has nice hands. And he was just doing circles around me out there, him and a bunch of other guys. And it just reminds me of how bad a shape I'm in and how far removed I am from the game. And then again, when you go play like these guys, like shinny hockey or rec hockey, like I don't have a skill set for that. Like, where do I slot in? I need to make 5-foot outlet passes and muck in the corner, and you're not allowed to do any of that stuff. And then having to handle the puck for more than 3 seconds, I'm a write-off.
No, every team needs that guy that wants to get physical on a rec team. Okay, let's talk quickly about the Flames this year. We talked to Eric Francis a lot, who you work with, and he kind of gives us a lowdown from your lens. Just fight and claw to try and get into the playoffs. What do you like about this team? Is it the scrappiness?
I do, and they're scrappy. I wish at times they'd be a little bit more physical. Like it showed the other night for me. You get the last week that they played, the last 2 games in the building, they played 2 very classy offensive teams, the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Colorado Avalanche. And if you're not going to make it miserable for those guys, if you're going to allow them time and space, eventually they're going to pick you apart. They're going to score goals. And they've done a really good job of it this year, of being gritty and being scrappy. And I think they've just gotten away from it just a hair here in the last little bit. I don't know if it's just kind of anticipating going into this break. I don't know if it's the dregs of the season, but if they're not going to do that, I don't think they're going to be effective. So you can try and be defensive, but I don't think you can do a good job of it without hitting, pinning, sticking, being physical in your own end. And it just, for me, was missing the last couple games.
Dustin Wolf in net, he's not a very big guy. And he's battling in there. Does he remind you anybody that you would have played with in the league or against? I go back, remember the Johan Hedbergs and Archer Zurbes and guys like that. Does Wolf remind you of anyone, Sarchi?
Well, there's a few comparisons here and there. Tamika Kiprusoff. And obviously both being Calgary Flames. I see the similarities in just the quickness. Kipper was that guy that played back in his net. Even I played with Javi Bullen as well. They didn't play a long ways out of their net, but the reaction time was just so quick. I remember in practice, you think you got a little bit of net to shoot at, and I'm going to get one. No, you're not getting one. And so he reminds me of that. And positionally, his battling is kind of like Kipper. I don't know if I have any other great examples. I was trying to think of the smaller goaltenders that I may have played with, but I had quite a few bigger blockers. Johnny Graham was a bigger guy. I'm trying to think of who else I had as a goalie. Dominic Hasek was his own. There is nobody to compare to Dom. So he's. And then I said Javi Bullen positionally too. He was ultra sound in net. So I think that's Wolf's biggest attribute. I got in a little argument. Well, not an argument, a discussion with Francis the other day. I still think that for a young goalie that comes in the league, and you're going to face these top offenses, and if you haven't seen everybody yet, it's got to be a little nerve-wracking. Yes, he's seen Alex Ovechkin's one-timer, and that was Francis' argument. He's seen these guys, and he's handled it, and he's done it. But again, he hasn't done it for the full course of a season. He's done it for a little over half. He did it for a little bit last year. And that is going to be, I think, the true test. Can you put a couple years together where you're super solid, and that'll be the foundation. And he's got now a few losses in a row. How is he going to handle that? Coming out of a break, how is he going to handle that? That's all new stuff for a guy that's just stepped up a level. So it's going to be lots to look at over the next year or two.
What's a story or what's something that we don't know? We have him on twice a week. What's something we don't know about Eric Francis?
I was trying to think. Well, I've skated with him once before. I don't know if you want to see that.
Oh, really? What kind of player are we dealing with here?
Ooh, boy. I don't know. Spent a lot of time down the ice across the far red line. Not a lot of help in his own zone, I'll tell you that much. But no, I'm the other thing.
He doesn't strike me. He doesn't strike me as a mucker and grinder, though, either.
Nope. So I think he's down at the right end of the ice. That's where he's hanging out, waiting for his opportunities. Doesn't handle the man cold very well. You'll have to ask him about this one. I think he got his medications at home mucked up, took a sleeping pill with a NyQuil or something to try to get over the man cold, knocked himself out for 16 or 17 hours, woke up mid-afternoon, had to be at the game, showed up at the game. I couldn't tell what planet he was on. And the next day we were going over because he actually got himself together, did a really great job during the intermissions, but he looked like death. And then the next day or a couple of days later when I saw him again, I was asking him and quizzing him about how he's feeling and stuff. I don't think he even remembered what I was talking about. So I think the man cold got the better of him. He's got to do a better job of laying out his plan of attack for getting through those things.
We know he loves to golf, though. I got to golf with him at some point. He sounds like he's a bit of a stick.
I've heard. So I wish I could have played him a couple of years ago. I had a great season last year. Might be forcing me into retirement. So I'm gonna wait and see how it goes this year before I challenge him to anything.
Well, come back, play a few rounds at the Davidson 9. Let's spray it around a bit, kind of work, get the confidence up, and then you'll be fine. Hey, like I said, Cory, thanks so much for doing this. We know you're busy. You do a heck of a job there with Eric on the TV. Keep it up. I like how you call it straight, like you just did with us. Just like, no, they got to get a little more greasy. They need to get a little more, Saskatchewan in them.
Yeah, that's all I know. There's only one end of the ice for me. So if it's good in there, then whatever happens down across the red line, that's just fine with me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's some video of you. Who is that?
Billy Guerin.
Billy Guerin.
That's Billy Guerin. Yeah, we showed this one a little earlier this year when the Minnesota Wild were in town. It was a bit of a sleeper that game, so this is what we had to go to. I respected him as a player. I was a little nervous going into this one too, because I think Billy was probably like right around 30 and I was super fresh in the league and I wasn't sure how it was going to go. So thought I better just get swinging before he does.
Who's the I got to ask you, who's the hardest puncher you ever fought against? Like actual punch.
Well, the hardest punch I ever took was Sheldon Surrey. He caught me with the left. It was game 1 or 2 in Tampa. The year we played them, second round of the playoffs. He's a Montreal Canadian. And Nolan Pratt, the game was over and he started mucking it up. He was my defense partner. I'm like, Prater, get out of there. Sure enough, I end up with Sheldon Surrey. And I kind of forgot he was a lefty. Oh. And if you guys want to look it up, I bounced off the ice pretty quickly, though. I was down, I was up. I spent a long time in the bathroom that night. Never told anybody. It's the hardest punch I ever took. Probably should have skipped a couple of weeks of hockey, but if I did at the time, I never would have played again. So,
warrior. That's why. Awesome. Thanks so much, Cory, for taking some time. We appreciate it. People out there in SportsCage land here in Sask appreciate you coming on.
Love it. Thanks for having me.